Okay, so we have a 1/2 inch right there, and then we've got over here a 1/4 inch, which looks like this. So we've got a 1/4 inch there and 1/2 inch there. So now what we're going to do is actually sew with that length of seam allowance. What I'm going to do is just fold over this edge, and we are going to pretend that this is the edge, and we're sewing 1/2 inch from there. And I'm doing that because I can just barely see my marker through there, so we can make sure that it's exactly 1/2 inch. Oh, and I see that my needle has become unthreaded. Hold on. You'll get very good at threading needles. There we go. Alrighty. Lower that presser foot. I like to do center alignment on my needle, and we are ready to sew. So we're going to start, sew a few back stitches to lock, and then continue forward. Now you'll also notice many needle plates, which is the plate underneath your needle, the metal plate, will have measurements on it. 1/2 inch, 3 or 5/8 of an inch, up to an inch usually. And you can use those measurements as well. Some people like to actually set out a piece of Scotch tape at exactly the place that they want to measure, but I find that my seam allowances vary depending on the garment I'm working on, so I don't like to tape down any specific seam allowance. I just like to get used to seeing what a 1/2 inch looks like. Get used to generally what a 1/2 inch looks like, or what a 1/4 inch looks like, so that I'm not dependent on anything. I just know what it looks like, and that'll come with practice, and that's our goal. So perfect, there we are. And actually, if I cut that open, I'm going to use my scissors right here to cut this, because this would be the edge of our garment actually. There we go, nice 1/2 inch. Slide this back, and then just like we would with a normal seam, we are going to press it open. We are always going to press those seams open to make them look nice and clean and beautiful. There we go, perfect. So from this side, disregarding this cut edge, that would be the seam on the outside of the garment, and that, without the blue, would be the seam on the inside. Now this blue water-soluble marker that I'm using is exactly that, water-soluble, water-erasable, which means when I spray a little bit of water on there, it disappears. Perfect. So now all you can see is that black thread, because I am using a non-matching thread so that it's easier to see. Okay, let's go to the other side, and now let's sew where we drew our 1/4 inch. All right, send that one through. And I find for me that the 1/4 inch is usually almost right in line with the edge of my presser foot. But every machine is different, all feet are different. Our goal here is really for you to get used to the idea, again, of seeing what does a 1/2 inch look like? What does a 1/4 inch look like? And intuitively knowing, yes, that's the right measurement. Of course, we can always measure. Using our seam gauge is the best way to do that. There it is. Using our seam gauge is the best way to do that. But we also want to build that intuition by practicing. So again, we're going to start with a little back stitch and then go straight down. Lift our presser foot, and let's see how we did by measuring it. Perfect, right on. And we're going to erase our blue, and again, we'll slit that open so that we can press that seam and make it look nice and clean. Oh, this will be a little bit harder with this smaller seam. Probably should have cut that first, but that's okay. Hold on. There we go. And we're going to press it from what would be the inside of the garment so that we can use our fingers to separate that seam allowance. And press it open. And of course we would want to trim the threads. Trimming the threads is very important. We want to give the customer a nice, cleanly altered, finished garment. So we never want those hanging threads getting in the way of our beautiful presentation. So from the inside and from the outside. And again, we would use matching thread in the real deal, but this makes it easier to see.